Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, please click on like and subscribe. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today we're going to work on making a square. I'm not going to do anything special. I'm not going to use any special tape measures. We're not going to measure anything. We're just going to work on getting our miters correct on our corners. So we're going to start with 4 pieces of wood that are the exact same length, same width, and we're going to make a square. So the first thing I want to do is make 4 pieces of wood that are the same length. This is not a good piece of wood. It's not a high quality piece of wood. It's a piece of scrap I pulled off something else. But for learning how to make a square, this will give you the general idea. So the first thing I'm going to do is square off my end. After that, I've got a stop down here. I'm going to make 4 boards the same exact length. And again, this is not going to be perfect, but it'll show you how to make a square. So with my boards cut, same length, same width, what I want to do is I want to cut a 45 according to my saw. Now, if your saw's off a degree or two, you may end up with like 44.5, 44 and 3/4. When you go to put those together at the end, what's going to happen is you're going to have a little gap at the top of your miter, or you're going to have a gap at the bottom of the miter, so it's not going to fit good. So I'm going to show you how to avoid that situation by doing the following steps. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut a 45-degree angle on 2 of my boards. So I'm going to cut this at the exact same time. So I've got the exact same piece on both ends, basically. Now, if your saw doesn't have a guide, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but you can see mine has a line that actually guides it. If you don't have that, make sure you make a line so you'll know where your 45 line is. What I want to do is I want to clamp this in place. Now you can glue these down, clamp them down, whatever you want. Whatever you want to do, you just don't want the bottom board to move on you. So I've got these clamped, I've got them tight together. My saw is going to clear my clamp. I just want to cut a 45 through both boards at the same time. I'm going to take these, I'm going to keep them together. I'm going to squeeze tightly with my thumb over here. Flip them over. I'm going to cut my 45 going back in the other direction. Again, using my saw as a guide to line up the corner. Same thing, I haven't let go of the pressure here. I've got them tight. I'm going to clamp these in place so they don't go anywhere. Make sure your clamp clears your saw. I'm going to cut the 45s off of this side. So what I have with that are 2 end pieces, or 2 bottoms, 2 sides, 2 lefts, 2 rights, whatever you want, that have the same exact degree angle on both sides over here. So what I want to do is I'm going to slide one of these out, like so. I'm going to leave the other one in place. I don't want it to move. I want to make sure it's still where my saw cut it at, with nothing changed. I'm going to rotate my saw back to 90 degrees. So with my saw 90 up, I've got my other 2 pieces here. And what I want to do, I'm going to slide these in. Now, once you get better at this, you can measure the corner, feel it, line it up and cut it straight down. Or at the beginning, just slide it until it hits the corner of your fence on the other side. This will do 2 things. So 1, it'll keep this piece from flying out and hitting you in the head or hitting something and breaking. And 2, it just makes it easier to cut and you'll know you got a nice straight 90. Same thing here. If you need to glue this, clamp it, clamp it. I've got a pretty good grip. I'm going to hold on to mine, and I've got my hand on the side of my saw. So if it does get caught, it's not going to draw my hand up into the blade. So good grip. Make sure your boards are nice and flat, and cut that square. Now when you flip that over, you see you got a perfect 45-degree angle. So what I want to do now is flip it and do the exact same thing. Make sure you get your opposite end, but you're going to flip this over when you're done, so you don't want to end up with it backwards. So I actually want to cut it the same direction that this one's going, which is this way. Same thing, slide it up till it stops, make sure your hand's clear. So before I cut my other one, I want to mark an X here and an X here. That way I just know this piece is up against this one. And that way, if for some reason, when I cut this one, it's a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, I'll be able to line it up. So the next thing to do is repeat the same thing on this board, your other board that's left over. Same thing, line it up, square it up, make sure it's nice and square. Flip it around so you get the same exact cut again. So when you get done with your cut, you'll notice that 2 of them are a little bit longer than the other 2. And that's because where we slid them up into the fence, we overcompensated and we cut off a little bit too much. Again, we're just trying to make a square here. We're not working on measurements right now. We're just trying to get nice square miters. To compensate for that, you could easily take the measurement between there and there, and then add that to your length when you're cutting your sides. That way when you slide it up against your fence, you wouldn't lose that extra bit. Or when you're lining these up, you can just line the corners up, hold it tight, and cut them off so you don't lose any length at all on your board, whichever works better for you. I'm going to lay these out on the table. 2 shorts on one side, on the left or right. 2 longs on the top or the bottom. I'm going to take my X's just because I lined them up that way. Again, you can mark all 4 of your cuts if you want. I'll line those up. Those line up almost perfect. That lines up almost perfect. And then you slide your bottom piece in. And by the time you clamp these down, glue them in place, you're going to have a perfect square, considering the type of wood we used.